afternoon, everybody, distinguished delegates, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. We warmly welcome you to today's side event dedicated to human rights situation in Azerbaijan. The side event is organized by the Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety, a non-governmental organization that's aiming to safeguard media and press freedom in Azerbaijan and has been serving as a public watchdog since 2006. The event will be moderated by me. I'm the representative of the Institute for Human Rights. To begin with, I would like to mention that no photos and videos are allowed to take in the room. And also, the side event is not sponsored by any governmental institutions, and this is the bare initiative of the civil society organizations. We consider today's dialogue to be exceptionally timely, as just yesterday, on September 14th, the European Parliament has adopted a resolution in regard to human rights violations in Azerbaijan, particularly addressing the case of illegal imprisonment of Dr. Gubade Badoglu, a prominent Azerbaijani scholar, economist, and anti-corruption expert. Members of the European Parliament have already expressed their concern and condemnation in regard to Ibadoglu's detention and urged government to unconditionally release all political prisoners, as well as ensure an independent investigation into the reported ill treatment of Dr. Ibadoglu. Notably, the first time in the history of EU-Azerbaijan relationships, MPs called for sanctions under the EU global human rights sanctions regime to be imposed on Azerbaijani officials who have committed serious human rights violations. The adopted resolution also reflects the dire situation with political persecution, providing the number of 200 political prisoners in Azerbaijan, including journalists, civil rights activists, and opposition politicians. Moreover, now we witness even more intense crackdown on the free voices within and without the country due to upcoming election process scheduled for years 2024 and 2025. On the age of the election, the more excessive repressions and human rights violations are expected to emerge, and the Parliament of Azerbaijan have already predicted an upcoming constitutional referendum that may change the administrative governments. And local lawyers, political analysts, and human rights advocates expressed their concern on this matter, emphasizing that the implemented changes may even further enhance the authoritarian way of governance in Azerbaijan. So today we'll elaborate on the human rights violations in Azerbaijan in more details. And with no further ado, let me present you today's speakers on site. It's Amin Husseinov, CEO of the Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety, investigative journalist and human rights defender. Ms. Karina Pavlova, human rights advocate of Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety. And joining us online, Jala Bayramova, human rights lawyer specializing in LGBTQ+ rights, the daughter of Dr. Gubade Badoglu, and she will give us even more details on his detention and alarming health condition. Firstly, let me pass the floor to Ms. Pavlova to comment on the infamous cases of politically motivated detentions in the country.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I would like to shed light on a pressing and deeply concerning issue that has been unfolding in Azerbaijan throughout the last few years, which are political prisoners. And we believe that this should concern us all, as this strike is in the heart of human rights, democracy, and justice. In 2023, Azerbaijan continued with a significant number of political prisoners, a problem that persisted for years. Political prisoners are individuals who have been detained, often without fair trial or proper legal processes, solely for their political beliefs or activities under fabricated charges. These individuals are often subject to inhumane conditions, physical abuse, and denial of basic human rights. While the Azerbaijani government has claimed progress on this front, the reality on the ground paints a different picture. One alarming trend in recent years has been the use of legal loopholes and the manipulation of legislation to bring bogus charges against individuals who dares to challenge the authorities. The case of human rights activist Bakhtiar Kachiyev is the clear example of this. He has been in prison since the 9th of December 2022, with the detention being constantly prolonged by the judge. The law enforcement authorities in Azerbaijan, following directives from the country's leadership, have construed the receipt of grants from the European Endowment for Democracy for executing public projects as illicit entrepreneurial activity, money laundering, and contraband. As a result, politically motivated charges have been levied. If found guilty, the human rights advocate may potentially face a prison term exceeding 10 years. Bakhtiar Gajiyev is an alumnus of the John Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, has consistently faced systematic oppressive measures from the Azerbaijani authorities due to his human rights and public advocacy. In 2011, he was handed a 2-year prison sentence, a move widely condemned by the international community, which recognized him as a prisoner of conscience. In recent times, Bakhtiar Gajiyev has endured repeated physical abuse and torture. During his most recent abduction in May 2022, he was subject to harrowing torture and degrading treatment. This included severe beatings, humiliation by his captors, who even filmed these acts, and threats of further sexual assault and murder, all aimed at coercing him to hold his criticism of the authorities. In August 2023, Mr. Hajiyev's lawyer revealed that the mental state of his client is at stake, as he is under a lot of pressure as the oppressive impact of an unfolded criminal case, supplemented by new charges, as well as the involvement of other persons in this investigation. To use a public condemnation as a pressure tool, private Facebook messages and photos of Bakhtiar Gajiyev were published in a Telegram channel, exposing an intimate correspondence with a few other activists and journalists. The source of the channel remains undisclosed, but this has been a considering surge in Azerbaijan in recent times, where private and personal content, frequently targeting opposition activists such as Gajiyev, has been leaked. Moreover, according to the OCCRP article dated 4 April 2023, the revelation of private photographs of female journalists and activists is allegedly used by the country's authoritarian government as revenge against speaking out. From the very beginning of the 2023, illegal surveillance and unlawful breaches of private communication have increased sharply, with women being the key target of these crimes. Even though the Azerbaijani authorities denied any relation to the leakage of these photos, the sophistication of the committed cyber attack points to the entity with enough resources that only the government may have. One of the ways the regime targeted its opponents was through the egregious violation of the right to privacy by using the infamous Pegasus spyware. Azerbaijan government used this spyware technological tool purchased from Israeli company, ostensibly to combat terrorism, organized crime, intelligence, and counterintelligence, most actively and illegally to spy on its critics. The government continuously interfered with the telephone and computer devices of numerous citizens and monitored their email, WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, and other messages. To conclude on this case, Bakhtiar Gajiyev, on September 13, during the debate in the European Parliament regarding the arrest of Dr. Ibadoglu, European Commissioner Elisa Ferreira noted twice in her speech that the case of Gajiyev and Ibadoglu would be a priority in their negotiations with Azerbaijan, and they would seek their immediate release. Dr. Ibadoglu's daughter will tell you a bit more on his case directly. For the moment, in general, 2,002 people are considered to be political prisoners in Azerbaijan, and these are only people on whom the information could be collected. 7 journalists and bloggers, 7 members of opposition parties and movement, 5 political immigrants deported from Germany, 145 peaceful believers, 7 convicted in Tatar case, 22 convicted in Ganja case, and 11 life-term sentence. In response to the ongoing issues, what can the international community do to address the problem of political prisoners and political repression in Azerbaijan? Firstly, to exert diplomatic pressure on the Azerbaijani government to release political prisoners and uphold its commitment to the human rights. Bilateral and multilateral negotiations should include discussions on these issues. Also, to install independent monitoring missions. Independent organizations and the international community should continue monitoring the situation in Azerbaijan, ensuring that human rights abuses do not go unnoticed. This also includes supporting organizations that provide legal aid to political prisoners. It is also essential to start applying targeted sanctions against responsible individuals in case Azerbaijani government persists in violating human rights. And last but not least, to provide more media and civil society support by supporting independent media outlets and civil society organizations in Azerbaijan to maintain a space for free expression and provide a platform for marginalized voices. In conclusion, the situation of political prisoners and political repressions in Azerbaijan in 2022 and 2023 demands our attention and action. the continued detention of individuals for their political beliefs, the erosion of the rule of law, and the stifling of the dissident voices are issues that challenge the principles of democracy and human rights. It is incumbent upon the international community to stand up for the justice, freedom, and the dignity of all individuals regardless of their political views. We must collectively work toward a future where political prisoners are a relic of the past and all citizens can express themselves freely without fear of repression. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. It is of particular importance to shed the light on the ongoing repressions unleashed by the Azerbaijani authorities. And let me turn to Ms. Bayramova joining us online. We are delighted to host you today. Would you like please provide us the testimony in regard to illegal imprisonment and ill treatment of Dr. Ibadoglu? And I encourage every participant on the site to use headphones to hear the testimony.
Thank you very much for everybody to being here and to listen us what is happening in Azerbaijan. My dad, Dr. Gubari Badoglu, is a renowned economic scholar and civil rights defender, and he's also a visiting fellow at London School of Economics. Instead of doing his research on corruption, embezzlement, and money laundering in Azerbaijan and teaching his students at the university, right now he's in the detention center and waiting for his trial to be imprisoned for 12 years. Dr. Gubari is punished for as a government critic and for his further investigation of the elite's illegal assets abroad. He's an advocate of sustainable development goals and human rights. He's a member of the working groups on grand corruption and state capture, and asset of stolen recovery of the UNCAC coalition, an association for the implementing of the UN Convention Against Corruption. Dr. Gubat has been in exile since 2015 because of a significant crackdown on civil society starting from mid-2012. He returned after the decision of European Court of Human Rights, when the court gave a judgment regarding his and many NGOs, including Economic Research Center, where he is a chair's frozen bank accounts. And the court decided that the frozen bank accounts of his and Economic Research Center is a violation of human rights. Later on, with the help of government NGOs, the government gave a false hopes to activists and human rights defenders abroad, and laid a trap for them, saying that after the European Court of Human Rights, the situation of human rights in Azerbaijan will be better. But what happened is, right now we have more than 200 political prisoners, especially since the Dr. Gubat's arrest. The amount is doubled. So the trap was successful. On July 23rd, 20 days after Dr. Gubat returned, he and his wife, my mother, Irada Bayramova, when driving their car, was crushed by Azerbaijani police cars and physically and psychologically abused by them. They were kept separate with no access to lawyers for hours. My mother still sees nightmares and had bruises all over her body and knots on her head because they were punching her head as well. Since then, the phone that they have been confiscated from us, which belongs to me, they used it and leaked all my personal photos to the internet. They have ransacked my little brother's room in the USA. And they only stolen my father's documents from his room. We are all being followed under constant transnational threats by the Azerbaijani government. All our relatives, my uncles and my father's cousins are restricted from leaving the country. Outside of the country right now, the government is trying to link Dr. Gubat with FETÖ and Islamic extremism to decrease international support. And inside the country, they try to connect him to atheism and LGBT through this local support. The government media constantly publish threats, insults against Dr. Gubat and our family, especially harassing me for being a peace activist regarding the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and targeting my personal life by publishing everything that is on the phone and about my personal life that they can collect. Especially women and LGBT activists are usually the target of this kind of campaigns, and their personal life and their personal pictures and correspondence are leaked. The reason for that, the government is trying to target them and try to target them for their gender identity. Right now, the Dr. Gubat suffers from high diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and kidney disease, and actually must be under strict diet and doctor examination. What is happening right now is this is not the case. Dr. Gubat's health is deteriorating rapidly, and according to Archway Medical Center in London, where he is general practitioner as well, he's at high risk of stroke and other heart diseases. The European Court of Human Rights granted Rule 39 interim measurements ordering the authorities of Azerbaijan to provide full Medicare care for Mr. Gubad. But what did Azerbaijani government do is they falsified his health data that they sent to European Court of Human Rights, and they also hidden the information. Dr. Gubad developed peripheral vein diseases, nodules in his throat, settlement in his gallbladder, lost 10 kilograms in the first 2 weeks and more than 50 kilograms for more than a month. He's been kept in inhuman conditions with limited access to medical care. International Committee of Red Cross came 3 times to the detention center and has been refused to see Dr. Gubad. They have been refused by the detention center. They couldn't examine him, and the detention center did not allow them to approach to him. So they're hiding Dr. Gubad for any kind of doctor examination. They're hiding his information, and they're falsifying his health data and documents. Dr. Gubad is arrested on the charge of counterfeit money and religious extremism. The illegal search occurred in the office he only used 9 years ago for the Economic Resource Center. They planted $40,000 there and tampered with the lock, as the current office manager could not get inside the office in the morning of 23rd July. Additionally, the police stated that they found religious book among the documents that they confiscated from the office. But none of those books are mentioned in the search protocol. So they have not been actually found from the office, and they're not in the search video either. So how those books are appeared is quite unknown. The fake witness claimed that Dr. Gubad was preparing for protest in autumn, even though Dr. Gubad actually was going to continue his research at the Dresden University of Technology and leave Azerbaijan at the end of August. The Dresden University of Technology rector even sent a letter to Ilham Aliyev saying that he was supposed to be in Dresden in September and they're waiting for him. All false accusations are quote-unquote justified under these proofs that I stated. And all our requests for house arrest are denied without justification by the local courts. Even the European Court of Human Rights are actually granted the immediate medical care for Dr. Gubad. Azerbaijan has become right now one of the worst authoritarian regimes, which calls for the time to UN to step in. According to Freedom House Index, Azerbaijan ranked worse than Russia, Iran, and Belarus, even before the country doubled its political prisoners, shut down land and water borders, and adopted very restrictive law on journalism and the parties. So it has ranked as 9 out of 100 points, same as China, way before all these political prisoners numbers were doubled. So it is worse than now that it was before. While a special rapporteur on the human rights conditions of Belarus, Russia, and Iran exist for years, there is none for Azerbaijan. But these numbers and everything happening in Azerbaijan makes it mandatory for the appointment of special rapporteur on the human rights condition of Azerbaijan. I thank the UN Human Rights Commissioner for the statement for my dad and ask that they take the initiative to visit Dr. Gubad in a detention center, start communication with the government for Dr. Gubad's imprisonment, come and see him, try to examine him, help us with his health for this urgent humanitarian matter, and demand his immediate release and unconditional release. Azerbaijan's human rights situation, Dr. Gubad's illegal detention, and targeting our family and relatives, transnational aggression towards us must be a condition for any bilateral communication and deals with Azerbaijan. So I thank you and urge you for all your attention for Azerbaijan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bayramova, for such a personal intervention. Your testimony is a real evidence to what extent the revenge of Azerbaijani authority can reach. We're indeed looking forward to a prompt and unconditional release of Dr. Badoglu and the safety of your family. And I would like to turn to Mr. Husseinov. Could you please share your insights on the situation with the human rights in Azerbaijan?
Thank you, Diana. First of all, I would like to say I'm exile-based activist. I'm living here in Geneva since 2015. And because de facto in Azerbaijan it's difficult to continue my outspoken work on defending human rights and expose corruption and kleptocracy in Azerbaijan. Still, many of my brave colleagues like Gubad, Bakhtiar, and many others which are still not in prison, but living in de facto in big prison. That's how we named Azerbaijan, with its 10 million population. We are able to express our opinion freely here during the international conference. I would like to say very appreciate for your attending to all of our colleagues, like-minded states representative. Any of you are able to ask our questions after our plenary address, but what I would like to say, why it's happened. We just 3 months ago make event on human rights in Azerbaijan, and after 3 months, situation is worse. Karina mentioned about more than 200 political prisoners. I would like to ask, for example, few cases when 2 young trade union members arrested just because they tried to defend their right to operate freely. They have 3,000 members which is working on pizza delivery services. Imagine, even government tried to control them. Government tried to control all possible economic hopes which is able to mobilize the people. Imagine if you even, no matter you're not political party members, if you trade union members and you only able to ask fair trade rules for your economic activity, you are enemy for the government, and government tried to kill all opportunities for even for young generation, for any spheres which is not still under their control. And who they are like one ruling tribe which is continued staying on the ruling power for last 30 years. 10 years we have a father, Haydar Aliyev, which is extend his power to his son. It's like regime which is maybe familiar with rules and tradition in Syria when father delivered ruling power to his son, or in North Korea. But Azerbaijan, member of the OEC, Azerbaijan, member of the Council of Europe, 2 institutions which have the highest human rights and democracy standards, and we always try to remind the Azerbaijani government to these 2 institutions which is Azerbaijan voluntarily joined 30 years and 22 years ago. They have to respect these rules and guidelines, but still what we observe in situation, for example, with the political prisoners, this machine, repressive machine, working like a revolving door. Bakhtiar Hajiyev is not his first politically motivated arrest. He spent 2 years in 2011 and released in 2013 just because he defend students' rights. When he finished Harvard University and returned back to Azerbaijan and tried to engage with youth community to create new opportunities for them, but they put him to prison. Gubadi Badoğlu, he's also staying 7 years de facto abroad in exile since from 2015, and he also believed when government declared we are ready to open new page in our history, we want to stop this crackdown against civil. He's naively believed for government promises and returned back to Azerbaijan, and that's why he's arrested. And imagine, we invited many of our colleagues from Baku to join us and deliver the statement, but unfortunately many of them, after arrest of Gubat and Bakhtiar, concerned about public and outspoken speeches, they say, could you please cover this topic by yourself, because if you deliver this statement on your side event, that puts us in trouble. And Jala, she's not living in Azerbaijan, she's also continued her study in Sweden. And for example, as like she said, for her family member who are able to attend to our side event, they're already under travel ban illegally. And ruling tribe, when imagine the state president Aliyev, he's staying on the power almost 20 years since 2003, and after 20 years he's destroyed completely civic space. He's destroyed political parties, he's destroyed his opponent. We don't have independent opposition in Azerbaijan parliament. We don't have any kind of opportunities or hopes for democratic transition in the upcoming future, and that's what I would like to ask you. Give us advice, what is possible to how we able to change situation, and we call to our partners in the Council of Europe member state, in EU member state, for it's also partly your obligation to defend human rights and democracy in Azerbaijan. At least human rights is not internal issues for separate state. In the case of Bakhtiar and Gubat, it's clear how situation is growing, revolving door is working. International community pushing Azerbaijani government on the last 20 years. They released people, but arrested them again. And many famous human rights offenders, which is they spent and paid huge price, they even today afraid to be publicly outspoken. Why it's continued? Because we try to make our government accountable. It's clear for ruling families, richest family in Azerbaijan. For the last 30 years, there's still dozens of billions dollars. And they try to control this power to keep them safe and not to allow to anyone ask them on issues with accountabilities and transparency. And that's everyone who start to criticize the government as like on a lack of the good governance or lack of transparency, as what Gubat and especially Bakhti are doing, they put him to jail. They torture him, and they try to send to other outspoken figures for if you continued things what they are do, you will be together with them in the jail. We ask United Nations member states, especially Human Rights Council, and special procedure mandate holders to go to Azerbaijan and look what's going on in person. And especially after our minister keynote address on 12th of September, when Minister of Foreign Affairs of Azerbaijan, he said for according to Azerbaijani constitution, state provides warranties for all citizens, even for national minorities. But ironically, I would love to always ask them for guys, how are you able to say this if during the last 30 years you betrayed our all constitutional values and you put all constitutional and civic right defenders to prison? How are you able to say this in this kind of events, like in the Human Rights Council, and address for, yeah, Azerbaijan have a great reforms with anti-corruption efforts, when you arrested one of the most outspoken anti-corruption experts and put in jail as like Bakhtiar and Kubat. We call to UN member states to help us make additional resolutions on Azerbaijan, use all potential mechanisms to raise and increase awareness around problem with situation with human rights in Azerbaijan. On this maybe pessimist note, I would like to stop my interventions, and we would love to communicate with our audience, and if you have questions, please feel free to ask. Again, we have many things to say, but unfortunately we have limited time, but we still have 25 minutes, and if you have any questions or recommendations, please. But don't forget to introduce yourself.
Yes, please. Mr. Christina has already opened the floor. I would like to continue.
Yeah, I would like to just introduce a brief intervention. At Hüquları International Association for Human Rights Advocacy in Geneva. Actually, we are deeply concerned with the instrumentalization of anti-terror legislation or of common legislation regarding financial crimes in Azerbaijan in order to deter dissenting voices. Particularly disturbing had been for us the arrest of Kubat İbadoğlu, academic, economist, and politician that occurred on July 23rd. Mr. İbadoğlu had been accused by Azeri authorities by having links with the Hizmet Gülen movement, qualified as a terrorist group by Turkey. This arrest happens in the context of deep collaboration between Azerbaijan and Turkey to persecute sympathizers of the Gülen movement, arbitrarily qualified as terrorists. We particularly flag cases referred by the special procedures of the Council, including the Working Group on Enforced and Involuntary Disappearances, regarding the abductions, enforced disappearance, and torture of Turkish asylum seekers, allegedly supporters of the Gülen movement in Azerbaijan. In this context, we call on Azeri authorities to abide by their non-refoulement obligation and to put an end to their collaboration with Turkish authorities' transnational repression campaign against Gülen movement sympathizers that shall amount to complicity in the commission of the human rights violations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We are still waiting for any of the comments or questions. I'm muted. Yeah, thank you so much for your intervention. If anyone has any other questions or comments, remarks to make, we are looking forward to conduct a discussion with you.
I just maybe response to your remarks. We believe for everyone have right to choice. Problem with Gubat Ibadoğlu, to be honest, the things what the government doing with him, they try to use. Because Gubat have experience with, like, since our independence is always super critical. And the factor is never connected with any religious movement. He have like very multicultural position. He never judged to anyone, and especially today in Azerbaijan, why government start to use this case? Because, as I said in my previous statement, we have more than 150 political prisoners which is arrested just for peaceful believing issues. And who they are? They are persons who government tried to blame with connection with Iran. They are Shias radicals. They are pro-Iranian people. They tried to establish in Azerbaijan Islamic states. And they are arrested, all of these people, with fabricated charges with drug issues. Like they say, for you are drug smugglers. And what they're doing, they say, for okay, first of all, they blame them for their Iranian spies. But when they start to investigation and they don't have enough evidences, they try to change agenda and say, okay, you need to be staying silent. We will keep you with some soft charges to prison, and after 1 or 2 years, we will release you. That's how it works with this group. But with Gubat, what are they doing? Even if Gubat don't have any connections with Gülen movement, they just try to say, look, this is like famous professor, how it's possible to connect or make his case a bit toxic in relation of Azerbaijan, because everyone in Azerbaijan there, especially like a democratic community in Azerbaijan, they try to be super neutral on issues, because they always call for not clerical state. Like they say, look, in Azerbaijan we have only constitutions, everyone free to choose his religion or religion movement. But Azerbaijan government tried to specially orchestrate this with Turkish law enforcement agencies just to destroy potential advocacy campaign for Gubat. But still we have many people in Azerbaijan who arrested and with affiliation with Gülen movement and illegally extradited to Turkey without access to lawyer, without access to right to ask asylum. That is how it works in Azerbaijan. When Aliyev needs someone from Turkey, he's calling just to Erdogan, oh, give me this guy, without any respect to the rules. And on the same rules working when Aliyev needs someone from Turkey. And Erdogan always able to ask anyone, deport these 10 teachers from Azerbaijan, they are Gülenists. That's what they blame them. But in fact with Gubat, I know Gubat is my friend, and he never connected, but they are arrested few people, also 5 more persons. Gubat not single person in the case. they arrested also 5 more persons. They say for like they are affiliated with Gülen movement, but Gülen movement supporters, in fact, not related with. They don't have anything to do with the Gubat. They just like collaborate this case. The law enforcement agencies try to make their life easy. To just say, look, it's not only Azerbaijani law enforcement operation, it's also operation which is provided, organized under assistance of the super professional Turkish intelligence. But it's like completely orchestrated scenario. That is what we'd like to say on related, but thanks for your statement. If anyone have a...
Thank you, Mr. Huseynov. I also have seen that Ms. Bayramova requested the floor, so please go ahead.
I would like to explain that the accusation of religious extremism has been added to the case of Dr. Gubat is when a lot of U.S. Senate started to actually advocate for him. So it is actually used because it's a religion and it's just used to decrease international support. My father is not a sympathizer of Gülen movement and is not a sympathizer in any way, because in Azerbaijan, if you are arrested for religious extremism, that means it's otherwise. You are not religious at all, which is the case with my father. And as Emin said, more religious people are arrested for the accusations of non-religious matters. So if accusation is one way, it is in other way that you need to believe too. Secondly, is that the case of Gülen people who are arrested are separate from Dr. Gubat's case in the criminal investigation. I am doing his legal cases as well with the other lawyers, and there is a separate group that is arrested with Gülen movement, and the Gubat's case is separate, and they're not together, and they're not investigated together. The reason that is only used is just to decrease the international support. And at the same time, the Dr. Gubat has been in US, and they just try to do these connections. At the same time, for example, people who are activating for Talush rights, which is a minority in Azerbaijan, are, for example, arrested for being a spy for Iran. So this kind of accusations in Azerbaijan are usually the otherwise. So I just wanted to make this clear that where this Gülen topic came from. It's just because of the advocate of U.S. Senate started. So they just did use this for that reason. But international Azerbaijani media is also accusing Dr. Gubat for working with Soros Foundation, working with Armenian diaspora, working with LGBT propaganda diaspora, something like that. So accusations of Dr. Gubat in Azerbaijani media is basically everything that you can imagine of. He's an atheist, he's Islamist, he's an terrorist, he is gay, and all this stuff, like basically everything that they can use to actually decrease any kind of support for Dr. Gubat is on the government media. And all of them are quite contradictory for each other. So it just means that how absurd this is. And they're trying to use anything that they can to decrease the support, and none of them is working. And that's why all these things that they're using sounds quite absurd. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bayramova. And I can see one request of the floor. Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I am Dr. Rasool, and I am representing Universal Human Rights Association. My simple question is that whether you have sought any legal remedy from local courts in Azerbaijan. Number two, what measures you have taken with the prima facie evidence to special representative here in United Nations Human Rights Council? And third, what collective we can do that you raised a question that some allegations are affiliated when anybody is being accused, is being affiliated with any religious or any political thought to prolong his detention or give any illegal action to prolong his illegal detention. What collectively we can do? This is my humble submission. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. Are there any others, so we can collect a few of them? Now then I'll turn to the panel.
If we would like to collect a few, we still have 30 minutes. If any other questions we can collect, and we spend our time effectively. Please.
Sharof Azizov, Justice for All International. I would like to ask a question regarding the complaint that you, and as I understood, submitted concerning this case. Could you please elaborate which venues within the United Nations you tried to engage with, and what was the outcome? If there any reaction coming from special procedures or from other mechanism for the protection of human rights of the United Nations? Thank you.
I cannot see any other questions, so I would like to turn back to the panelists to have some comments on the questions raised.
Yeah, I can start. First of all, from your questions, as I know, Azerbaijan is part of the Council of Europe, and if we have two choices, we can ask Group on Arbitrary Detention or European Court for Human Rights intervene on any specific cases. And as I know, for which Jale and Gubadbadoğlu's family decided to work with European Court for Human Rights, but still they have chance to work with special rapporteurs. And maybe Jale able to detail response to your questions. Regarding what we can able to do together, I think especially during pandemic, we lose our ties with our colleagues in abroad, and international human rights movement, I think, lost its capacity on joint actions. Maybe it's possible to organize specific events when ECOSOC members able together organize some roundtables, regional side events, not covering only one country, as like with what we're doing, try to do, and to try to make attentions of like to global souls, because general problem is Azerbaijan or country like Azerbaijan, they have a systematical problem with most of them have a rich energy resources, and unfortunately all of them have a problem with the lack of the rule of law, lack of the human rights, lack of transparency. And that's what it's maybe really super big questions how we can change situation, because we have one part of the world with like-minded state, which is they have a good environment with human rights, civil movement, civil rights, and another part of the world which is looks like rich, but in fact we are poor and we're not able to enjoy of our resources. And here, for me it's personally difficult to respond, but we would like to collaborate with any of you, even if you have any specific ideas. Let's try to think, maybe we can do some joint side event on next upcoming Human Rights Council. Related with Azerbaijan, again, it's difficult to defend believers. It's super difficult job in Azerbaijan, especially on condition when government destroyed civil society. Imagine you need to provide legal support for all of these 150 believers who's arrested with fabricated drug charges or espionage charges. And even today, we're not able to find enough resources to provide legal assistance to journalists or human rights defenders. Sometimes we are staying in the deep crisis with lack of funding. And that's where Karina, on her address, she called to one of the most important directions. International community, especially United Nations member states like US, Canada, and developed countries, and especially EU member states, they able to provide more support to civil society in Azerbaijan and increase their capacity, because since 2013 until 2023, Aliyev implement one of the strongest repressions against civil society. It destroyed everyone. We don't have access to foreign funds. And many donors, again, we always saying about this, leave Azerbaijani civil society alone. If you see what European Union doing in situation related with Belarus, they are established special flexible mechanisms to provide and contribute to support civil society in exile. But it's not similarity in situation related with Azerbaijan. We are staying without resources. We're able to provide more reports, provide more proofs, and that's what this, we call 200 political prisoners. But if we look deeply, all cases in all Azerbaijan regions, maybe these numbers of political prisoners increased at least twice. That is, with our limited resources, we're able to calculate all of this data. And that's why we need support to do our job, institutional support. We need to core fundings, and we don't know how to realize and how to fight with these issues in such kind of terrible conditions when you don't know how to pay to lawyer who's supposed to visit, how to pay to relatives of this, which they need sometimes provide some medicaments or any kind of meals to prisoners. That's why we believe if Azerbaijan, as we are highly welcomed, adopted resolution by the European Parliament, which is mentioned, if it's all political prisoners not released in the upcoming futures, any potential upcoming deals with Azerbaijan supposed to be not in agenda anymore. And we call to other state, UN member state, don't make any economical deals with Azerbaijan until issues with human rights and political prosecution in Azerbaijan not solved. Thank you for this. And
yeah, thank you, Mr. Husseinov. I have seen Ms. Bayramova requested the floor. If you can just briefly intervene for a couple of seconds, because unfortunately, due to time restrictions, we cannot provide any more time. Thank you.
I just want to say that we have started correspondence with the UN Human Rights Defenders Special Rapporteur, and we are talking to Human Rights Commissioner as well, so that they can actually broaden out this case. But mainly we are working with the European Court of Human Rights because it has much more influence in Azerbaijan. As for the help, is that Azerbaijan is, even though being worse than a lot of countries like Russia, Iran, and Belarus, doesn't have any sanctions against its officials, is never been named as an autocratic regime, and there has been a lot of business deals continuing with Azerbaijan, especially after the sanctioning of Russia. So I don't really know the question asked, the person's capacity, what can be done, but the most important is that for us to get information out there that what is happening in Azerbaijan so that people can actually write about it and actually give reports about it. A lot of international organizations actually doesn't want to work with Azerbaijan, is not providing funding for Azerbaijan. But in order for civil society to continue, it needs funding, and Azerbaijan needs to be on the target, as a main topic. It's not supposed to be only the Russia, Belarus, and Iran, but it's also supposed to be Azerbaijan, which is worse than them. So we need a lot of advocacy in that matter as well. So when we go and knock the doors and say that what is happening in Azerbaijan, people will believe us, rather than they will believe caviar diplomacy and Azerbaijani corrupted MPs in Council of Europe or in other European countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bayramova, and I would like to thank the panelists for their statements and all of the participants being present with us today. I believe that we reached our goal, and it was to shed the light on atrocious human rights violations in Azerbaijan. We would like to emphasize that our collective voice and actions are catalysis for change, and we are very much looking forward to further collaboration with both member states and NGOs to seize their violations in Azerbaijan. I thank you.